Hello, ladies and gentlemen, men and women, Roadrunners and Trojans. Welcome to bowl season. Welcome to episode 204 of the Almadome Audible podcast. This is your host, Jared Kalmus, joined as always by the jolly Adrian Muniz.
That is right, baby. What is good? Oh, I love that one. I did all my Christmas shopping today, most of it, so I am feeling extra jolly. I even learned what I think is maybe my new favorite Christmas song, thanks to the American Eagle store soundtrack. And it is Mamacita, ¿Dónde está Santa Claus?
Okay, sounds like a banger.
It is an absolute banger. It's by Guster, 2004. Don't know how, I've never heard it before, but it is so good. I had it on repeat the whole way home. I Shazammed it in the American Eagle. Yeah, so very, very stoked. I don't know if people still use Shazam. I'm still an avid Shazammer.
My friend did it as a joke. We were at the Rockets game against the Bucks on Sunday night, and I can't remember. It was like one of the most recognizable songs of all time, and he like held up his Shazam app like as a bit. It was pretty funny. But I have to admit, Adrian, you never struck me as an American Eagle shopper. Was that like a request that they wanted something from American Eagle?
Yeah, this was niece's gift card. So
okay.
It's from like the boutique American Eagle.
I hope the niece is not a podcast listener. You can't be spoiling presents.
No, I don't think she is, at least not yet.
Right,
but
cool. Well, man, now my hopes are dashed that you were going to show up at the next tailgate in an awesome American Eagle polo with like giant letters over the chest.
Ripped denims on.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's the best look. Yeah, the jeans with flip-flops, the total American Eagle right there. Absolutely love that. No, it was never too much on the preppy side. I think I maybe had like one single Hollister shirt in middle school that my mom bought for me and never got worn to school. Yeah,
that checks out a bit more. Well, obviously, we are here to preview the Cure Bowl, what has been rated as one of the top 3 bowl matchups of the 2022-2023 bowl season.
Yes.
One that I'm really excited to watch. And we're going to get into all the X's and O's of the Troy Trojans. We're going to talk a little bit about UTSA coming in to this bowl game. But first, I think it's only fitting that before we start breaking down that game, we want to extend our condolences to the entire Traylor family on their loss of the patriarch of the family, Billy Traylor. Just sounds like an amazing guy from what we've seen, Coach Traylor speak about publicly and tweet and all of that. So just want to offer our condolences and thoughts and prayers to that family going through a really difficult time right now. And man, I can't imagine being Jeff or Kurt and, having to go coach in a bowl game, less than a week after losing your father, man. That's really, really tough. So definitely keeping them in my thoughts.
Yeah. To the whole Traylor family and also to the entire town of Gilmer, Texas, right? Where Billy Traylor, Coach Jeff Traylor, and also Coach Traylor's mom. Gosh, her name escapes me right now. I'm so sorry. And they, Linda Traylor, they really, really have built the town of Gilmer. Gilmer as a town should probably be renamed to Traylor. At least the high school should probably be Traylor High School at this point. But Billy Traylor was a 40-year principal. He was a band director. Shout out to Sosa and all my band nerds out there. Traylor was talking about him. He was asked if his dad loved football, and his response was he loved music. He could play every single instrument in the band. 40 years, the band director at Gilmer High School. I mean, really, really just incredible. Mother was an educator there for 40 years. And then, of course, Coach Traylor with his unbelievable head coaching run there. And this is so impactful, Jared, because it's not just head coach Jeff Traylor, but it's offensive line coach Kurt Traylor, Jeff's little brother, both on the UTSA football staff. They're in Orlando when they get the news that their dad, Billy, passed away. Kurt actually already had his bag packed up, ready to take that first flight back home. Traylor wasn't sure if he should coach or if he should return home. And it was actually Mama Traylor, Linda, who said, there's no way that I'm letting y'all come home. Y'all are in Orlando, coach bowl game, have fun with those players, have the moments with those players. And even Traylor said himself, my father would not want us to return home. So just Really, really incredible, man. A very, very impactful thing to happen to these two guys. Really instrumental pieces to the staff. I mean, head coach, of course, but then Coach Kurt Traylor, who's dealt with the offensive line and all of their woes that they've had all season long, still managing to have a stout offensive line at the end of it all, stout as it could be through the season. Yeah, man, I mean, that's really hard. 4 days before you play in your bowl game to get that news, man. And Traylor's just been handling like an absolute class act. Half of his bowl game interview was him being asked questions about his father, and he had to entertain that for 10 minutes and just an absolute stud up there dealing with it. I don't know what he's dealing with emotionally, but on the surface, man, he is just as cool, calm, collected, level-headed, and commandeering as ever. Unbelievable stuff from Jeff Traylor, man.
Yeah, well said, Adrian. And don't forget that Jeff's son Jordan is on staff as well. So he lost a grandfather, man.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really tough, really tough.
That's right.
You know, hopefully being with the guys in Orlando is cathartic to them and healing to them, and just letting it all loose on Saturday. Or sorry, I said on Saturday at fencing, on Friday for the bowl game, and helping lead the guys to victory and to compete helps with their healing processes as well.
Yeah, man. And Coach Traylor even said the team meeting today was all about dads, which Coach Traylor, man, I mean, that guy, such an unbelievable leader to take this and then to spin it into what is talked about in the meeting room for the game. And probably what I would imagine was an unbelievably heavy and impactful meeting with those players talking about dads for the whole time. He even talked about, he shared an anecdote, a little story there during the press conference, talking with Brennan Brady and his dad, who's a listener of the pod, Andre, big shout out. And it's so cool for Traylor to have that ability to be able to take something and then to turn it into something that's motivational, something to talk about, and that the entire team can relate to together. You know, it's not like Jeff Traylor and Kurt Traylor, you know, got away from the team and locked themselves in their hotel room and kind of hugged it out and cried it out. No, man. I mean, it's really a family oriented thing, this triangle of toughness, and it's just beautiful, man. It was really, really heavy listening to that press conference and just imagining what was going on with him and the players, the phone calls back and forth with his mom, talking to his brother. I mean, man, it's just heavy, bro. And yeah, just the biggest condolences to the Traylor family, and hope that they can go and win one for dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Adrian, let me ask you this. What do you know about Troy University?
Dude, I know a lot. Thanks to, I shouldn't say a lot. I feel pretty prepared for this podcast. And I got to give a big shout out to the Troy Boys podcast. As podcasters, we typically try to do a lot of our research via other programs' podcasts. And that's not always an easy thing. And I don't want to brag on Audible, but I mean, a lot of podcasts, they're very homery, very rah. You don't get too much of a really good breakdown. But Troy Boys, they were super level-headed, had really, really good takes about the program, about UTSA. Hell, even one of the Troy Boys picked UTSA in this bowl game to win. So they were very level-headed, really, really good stuff. And I got to listen to their last 3 or 4 episodes, just trying to learn about the Troy football program. And so one of the craziest stats that I learned, Jared, when UTSA started football in 2011, Troy football was 102 years old. Their very first football season was in 1909, pre-World War I. It's like the time of like women's suffrage. This is like the beginning of the 20th century, bro. 102 years old, whenever we played our very first game.
It was eye-opening to me to go on the Troy, Alabama Wikipedia page, and there's a whole section before the Civil War, during the Civil War, and after the Civil War. And I think as Texans, we're not accustomed to having like that much history.
No,
like that long of history, right? I mean, my hometown predated the Civil War by a lot, but it's not something that I guess gets talked about that much. And I don't know, doesn't.
Well, Texas was only Texas, what, like 20 years before the Civil War? 30 years before the Civil War? We became Texas in 1836. Well, Civil War was like 1860s, 1870s. I mean, it's pretty nuts, man.
Very, very few of the larger towns and cities in Texas, I feel like, predate that era.
That's right.
What I mean?
That's right. And
yeah, so it's just very different.
And Troy football is very, very much like an absolute piece of the city or the town of Troy, Alabama. Like it is extremely integral, man. I mean, and if you didn't know Troy football was in Alabama, I don't think it would really strike you as much because, you think Alabama, you think Crimson Tide, right? Maybe CUSA and podcast listeners think of UAB, think University of Alabama, but here's a team with just as much football history, and the program really is like integrated into the community of Troy, Alabama. A lot of people are fans. A lot of people follow it, a lot of people alumni, and then people that have no relation are diehards to the program, right? I mean, it's almost something that we want San Antonio to grow into with UTSA at one point, right? Where like the whole team, whole town, whole city is super invested in the program. And Troy, man, a lot of history.
When they sell out their stadium, which they do fairly often, it like almost doubles the population of the town.
Incredible.
Like
That's
imagine.
incredible.
I see a lot of parallels between them and Texas State. And I don't just say that because they're both in the Sun Belt, but imagine if like Texas State was pulling 90K to their football games. Like I know San Marcos is quite a bit bigger than Troy, but it's still, I guess Huntsville is probably a better comparison for St. Pete State. Like really, if they were pulling 30K. If they were pulling 30K to Huntsville in the middle of nowhere, an hour from the closest airport, closest comparison I can think of.
That's what it's like. It's like everyone in like a tri-county area goes to those games. Yeah, like you'd have to get the populations of several of those towns. It's pretty phenomenal, man. And we're talking about Sunbelt. Let's just go ahead and get to what I think, Jared, is one of the elephants in the room. This is the only bowl game all month long, all season, between two conference champions, the CUSA champions and the Sun Belt champions. Which conference is better, or should we say worse? Is it CUSA or is it Sun Belt?
Oh, it's the Sun Belt. Sun Belt's better than Conference USA by a mile.
I think that's something our listeners need to. I think something our listeners need to know and understand.
I don't think it's even close, man. I mean, you look at like Louisiana Tech this year. You look at FIU this year. I guess Middle Tennessee beat Miami, but still, I mean, there's a lot of like really, really bad teams in Conference USA. And I think in the Sun Belt, the ceiling is probably about the same. I mean, Troy won the Sun Belt, UTSA won Conference USA. These two teams are neck and neck, right? It's like pretty much a pick 'em in Vegas. But if you look at the bottom half of the leagues, like the bottom half of the Sun Belt's way better than the bottom half of Conference USA.
There you go.
And that's the biggest difference in my book. Like, let me put it this way. UTEP was like the 10th best team in Conference USA this year. They blew a 24-point lead to UTSA. I don't think that if UTSA was in the Sun Belt, they would have been able to come back from a 24-point deficit against whoever, was the 6th worst team in the Sun Belt.
Whatever Sun Belt team it was.
Yeah. So it's a deeper league. It's not like a higher ceiling league, right? But a deeper league for sure.
Okay, I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense. The bottom of CUSA is worse than the bottom of the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah.
And at the upper end, UTSA, Troy, Coastal Carolina, James
South
Madison.
Alabama. Yeah.
They're probably all on the same caliber, on the same plane, right? And UAB, right? All on the same plane at that upper echelon tier.
Yeah. Georgia Southern is pretty good this year too.
Georgia Southern, yeah. Well, there's a lot of good teams. I think you could also say that there's more good teams in the Sun Belt than there are in CUSA.
Yeah,
because we think Western Kentucky, UAB, UTSA, maybe North Texas.
Right.
That's it, bro.
Right.
And we over here just named like 6 or 7 Sun Belt schools talking about their upper echelon.
And almost all those teams that you just listed all had Power 5 wins this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So Sun Belt is by far the better conference. I think that's fair. But 2 conference championships. Yeah. And you were talking about one of the top ranked bowls. I think CBS, this was another Troy Boys stats that I got. CBS and Action Sports ranked the Cure Bowl as the number 2 most watchable bowl of the entire bowl season. And when they say
we got to define watchable.
when they say
watchable enjoyment factor, not like ability to watch, because
not ability to watch.
2 o'clock on a work day, man.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, when they say watchable, they don't mean watchability. They mean competition wise. 2 p.m. kickoff, Jared. Are you freaking ass kidding me? 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday? Who in the hell is going to be able to watch this game? I actually did not realize kickoff was at 2 p.m. until just the other day. And then today they were talking about it again on the Troy Boys podcast. I was like, damn, 2 o'clock. It's infuriating. It's almost infuriating, bro. How? Why?
The why? Just for TV purposes. I don't know. The FCS playoffs are later that night. So you can consider UTSA as being the opening act for the Incarnate Word Cardinals playing as North Dakota State in the FCS semifinals later that evening. That hurts too, doesn't it? That makes it worse.
That makes it worse. Is that game on ESPN?
It is. No, it's on ESPN 2. UTSA is on ESPN 1, regular.
We are on ESPN. We are on the main flagship 4-letter network.
Right.
Would you rather have a 2 p.m. kickoff on ESPN or a 7 p.m. kickoff on CBS Sports Network?
ESPN, for sure.
Wow.
Because most people don't get CBS Sports.
No,
I think like as sports fans, we kind of take it for granted because we always purchase a sports package or whatever.
Sure.
A lot of people have YouTube TV, Hulu, whatever, but your average or even like a bar, right? Like they might not have CBS. They don't have it turned on by default. You got to ask for it, right?
You got to ask for it. Yeah.
I mean, look at it this way. No matter who is playing in the Conference USA Championship game on CBS Sports, it never draws enough viewers to even register on the TV ratings. So you have to have like over 100K people watching the game.
Yeah, CBS Sports isn't even like as recognizable as like an FS1, right?
No,
it's definitely like lower on the totem pole when it comes to watchability.
Yeah, so, like my grandparents like have to follow most UTSA games on Gamecast because they're not going to pay for CBS Sports.
Right,
like, they don't know how to sign up for CBS Sports. It's a for sure thing. If you want to talk like ESPNU, I think that's probably a closer comparison. But anytime you get on ESPN proper is good. It just sucks that like it's on that Friday because like school doesn't get out until that day. I think in most states, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it had been like the following week, the following Friday or something like that, or even like next Monday, I feel like that's better because everyone's for sure going to be out of school on the 19th and just kind of freeze up a lot. But
right,
whatever, man. It's G5 life. Like I said in the last podcast, if you got a problem with this, you're essentially saying you have a problem with UTSA being in a G5 league. Like it is what it is. You just got to learn to deal with it, make the most of it.
Take the half day, get the hell home, put it on ESPN or get to the bar. We're going to be on at the bar because we're on ESPN. Yep. So wherever the closest place to your office is, get the hell out of there or maybe take a late lunch. Don't come back, whatever. Yeah, man, that's the thing to do. That's the thing to do. Make sure you get in front of a TV, set all of your TVs at the house for record because I think we get the viewership numbers if it's on record. And that way you won't miss it. Just don't check your Twitter and you won't have any spoilers. So, Jared, this is the very first time that Troy and UTSA are meeting on the gridiron. We have never played each other before. Another couple of cool firsts. This is head coach John Summerall's first season as a head coach, not just his first season at Troy, it's his first season as a head coach. And in the previous 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021, Troy was a 5-win football team in each of those years under Chip Lindsey. The last time they went to a bowl game was 2018, same year that they upset LSU to become the first Sun Belt team to receive an official ranking. John Summerall comes in here in his very first season and wins 11 games, bro, after Troy's a 5-win team after the previous 3 years. Is John Summerall have that magic touch a la Jeff Traylor?
Man, I was just about to say he's got a lot of Jeff Traylor in him. Did you see his interview where he was talking about we had to simplify the offense to guys playing faster and thinking less because it's like being at Chick-fil-A. When you order a number one in Troy, Alabama, you're going to get the same chicken sandwiches you're going to get if you order in Times Square in New York City and all of that. Man, I was like, this is Alabama Jeff Traylor if I've ever seen one.
100%. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. He's he's got a good personality. He's really like level-headed, and he definitely has that demeanor in his interviews and his press conferences. But he's a hell of a lot younger, Jared. He had a career-ending injury at Kentucky, his alma mater, and that's actually where he began his coaching career as a GA after getting injured and taken out. Then he coached at San Diego, and he was the co-defensive coordinator at Tulane before coming over to Troy, where I think he was an assistant head coach right after Tulane. He goes to coach his linebackers at Ole Miss, and then he comes back to Troy after Chip Lindsey's fired. You heard me say co-defensive coordinator at Tulane. You heard me say linebackers coach, and sort of the name of the game for the Troy Trojans, brother. Nasty, stout defense. Really, really good defense. And that even goes back to like prior to the Sumrall era beginning. They've always been a team that's been able to hang their hat on defense.
Yeah. I think Sumrall absolutely nailed his coordinator hires, right? I mean, I don't think he can get better coordinators than this as a G5, right? He got Sheil Wood, who was the co-DC for Army and had coached like safeties and linebackers there. Obviously, Army's defense, when Coach Wood was there, phenomenal. And then he also got Joe Craddock, who has a ton of history with Jeff Traylor. I think they coached together both SMU and Arkansas, right? So definitely a name that like hardcore UTSA heads will recognize. But most people will probably recognize him as the former tight ends coach at UAB. And I think both of us can attest the tight ends at UAB were tremendously well coached when he was there, right? I feel like they were just pumping out all conference tight ends year after year for a while there. And both of those guys have been great. So, I mean, the most important thing you do as a head coach, I think, is hire your coordinators. And he hit 2 home runs on both sides of the ball.
Another great parallel between him and Traylor. I mean, it's almost like the same coaches at different places, you know? I mean, Sumrall is from Huntsville, Alabama, right? Small town somewhere in the middle of Alabama.
Huntsville is not a small town.
No, it's a large one. It's not as small as Troy.
I think it might be the biggest town in Alabama.
It's a city. Yeah. You might be right.
All right, we're going to start the Adrian Travel to Alabama Fund.
Here we go. Yeah, that's right. I haven't been. I don't know as much. And he's got SEC assistant coach experience, right? Kentucky, Ole Miss, and then he comes over to his first coaching gig. It's incredible, man. So defense, dude, this Troy defense only allows 17.5 points per game. No team has scored more than 32 points against the Troy defense, and that was Appalachian State, and they only did that because of a last play of the game Hail Mary pass. Or else they wouldn't have broke 30 either.
And that Hail Mary pass was like really far too. They threw that thing like 50, 60 yards, if I remember correctly. They held Ole Miss to 28 points too.
Yeah.
So when you keep in mind, not only the talent disparity between, one of the top teams in the SEC, but even outside of the talent gap, Lane Kiffin offense, man, they're always putting points on the board. I don't have their points per game average in front of me, but I feel like 28's got to be on the pretty damn low end for Ole Miss this year.
Yeah.
So obviously they're really well coached. And also want to point out that we almost always start on offense when we preview another team, but we're starting on defense because this defense deserves it. They're fantastic. But yeah, that was the first thing that jumped out to me when I started watching film on this defense is how well coached they are. I mean, I think if you think back to like the 2016, 2017 UTSA defenses when Pete Golding was the defensive coordinator, it just always felt like UTSA had a guy near the football. Like it was so rare to see the opposing offense have a guy open or break a tackle and run for 10, 20 yards without getting touched. And that's kind of what I see from this Troy defense, man. Like they're just very sound, very disciplined. They play their role. They fly to the football and they gang tackle, right?
That's
So
right.
even if you've got Zachary Franklin out wide, and he does a little shake and bake and he breaks through that tackle from the cornerback, that safety is going to be over there in no time at all. Right. So I think that's the main recipe of success for their defense is they do have talent. Don't get me wrong, but the effort that they play with overcomes any shortcoming as far as like talent goes or scheme misalignment or anything like that. And effort goes so far on defense. And ability to prevent those big plays and make offenses earn their drives is what sets them apart from other defenses.
Yeah, big time. Dude, they went up 31-0 against Coastal Carolina in their conference championship game. 31-0. And we'll get to their offense. Their offense doesn't really score points to that degree, but 0 points from Coastal Carolina and held a really, really good Coastal team, a really good Coastal offense, I should say, to just 26 points.
Mm-hmm.
The defense is nasty. I think we got to start with two-time Burlsworth Award finalist, which is given to the player that started as a walk-on, having the best season of the year, Carlton Martial at linebacker. Just an absolute stud. He holds the most career tackles in FBS history, in college football history. Carlton Martial, 5'9". Unbelievable.
5'9". That's crazy.
Unbelievable. What do you see whenever you watch Carlton Martial?
It's a ball hawk. It's an absolute ball hawk. I think he's a little quiet on the field sometimes, but I mean, maybe because he's so small. I don't know. But when I was watching the film, I was like, all right, where's this linebacker that gets all the tackles? Because that's not often making the flashy play, but he's making the right play at the right time. Right. And he does generate turnovers, like he generates fumbles and stuff like that, or I should say forces fumbles. But it's not always like, oh, I'm coming and delivering this crushing blow and knocking the ball loose and, throwing this guy's helmet off. But it's more of like, I'm putting my helmet on the ball, I'm wrapping around and like getting a hand on the other side of the ball carrier and ripping it out and stuff like that. So it's super fundamentally sound. And I think he's really quick too. Like he's quick to get in the backfield. Obviously to size, he's not the strongest dude to take on blocks. So he knows how to anticipate the block and work his way around it, as opposed to using power to fight through it. Right. Mm-hmm. So he's just a guy that's just going to plug things up in the middle of the field. Right.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. UTSA is so big on their offensive line, especially in the interior, right? Like, will sheer size alone be enough to prevent Marshall from making those plays on like inside zone that UTSA runs so well? That's probably one of the biggest question marks I have for how successful UTSA's offense is going to be. Like, can Maka, Davis, Terrell Haynes, and then I guess Billy Taddefu has moved back to guard a little bit. Like, all those guys are huge, right? If they just get in front of Marshall, is that enough to open up, those 5-6 yard gains on inside zone, or is he going to be quick enough to get around those guys and blow that thing up?
Nasty. Yeah. They're going to have a really big assignment containing that guy.
And, I always like to find a parallel player from somewhere in UTSA football history that I could compare to this star player on the opposing team.
Yeah.
I don't think UTSA's ever had a player quite like Carlton Martial.
Not like that mix of size of the small stature with the crazy ball hawkness.
Not that played that same position, right? I think of guys like Iguagu and Marcus Curry did a lot of those same things, being undersized, being quick, high football IQ, but they didn't play middle linebacker. Both of those guys were outside linebackers or like edge safety guys.
And Josiah Tauefa definitely had the ball hawk ability, that nose for the football, but had a tremendous stature to him as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was a former defensive lineman. So it's really hard for me to find a comparison. I don't know.
Yeah, it was funny. I was reading a little bit about Carlton Martial in the freshman year game program. Actually had him listed at, I think, 5'11", just because he was a walk-on and not too many people knew much about it. But, we always like to add those extra inches in the roster. Yeah. A couple extra inches added for him. But yeah, it's a guy that you got to be aware of, got to be scared of. Carlton Martial, senior linebacker. The other guy I'm going to say you really got to be scared of and be aware of is T.J. Jackson, sophomore defensive end, leader on the team in sacks with 8 sacks on the season. Get this year for 56 loss of 56 yards on those sacks. It's like 7-yard loss per average per sack. That's just disgusting.
I wonder if he had one really long sack, like a 35-yard sack or something.
Something like that. That's what I was curious of.
Crazy happened.
That's what I was curious of too. But I mean, we don't have a single 8-sack guy on our roster. Trey Moore, freshman outside linebacker, had 6 on the year. TJ Jackson had 8, and then right behind him, Richard Jubinor, 6.5.
I must have pulled my stats from a different. I think again, this is Pro Football Focus, not being that great. But in my notes, I have Richard Jubinor having 10 sacks this year.
Oh, really?
And I'm going to trust, like, if you pulled it from Troy's site, that's probably right compared to PFF. I've seen PFF be wrong on stats so many times.
I'm on CFB stats.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would trust that. But their whole defensive line is so strong. So strong, man. All these guys are very disruptive. They all play off of each other. The Jubinor guy that we mentioned is an Auburn transfer. I think he's a former 4-star guy. So he's just an absolute problem on the edge, man. Just a beast. 29 quarterback pressures this year. Offensive line got their hands full, that's for sure.
Jeez Louise, that's insane, dude. Yeah, so that's going to be a big problem. They are, I guess, 5th in the nation in total sacks with 39.
Yeah. Do you remember how much pressure did Houston get in that first game of the season against UTSA? It's been so long now. I have a hard time remembering. I know Frank had to scramble quite a bit, but
yeah, but I don't think Houston got an overwhelming amount of pressure on us at all.
Because the argument that I was going to make is I think UTSA's offensive line has held up pretty strong against the best defensive lines that they've seen, being Houston and Texas. UTEP kind of got after them a bit, though. UTEP has a really good defensive line as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. I think Houston was a problem on defense, but I don't know if they were really blowing up the backfield to that degree. Yeah, I'll save that thought to whenever we switch over to offense.
Sure.
Is there anyone else on the defense for Troy that UTSA fan needs to look out for?
Yeah, 2 guys I want to call in the secondary. Cornerback Reddy Stewart is a top-rated player on defense. Just a really sticky corner. He's got a knack for going up and getting the football. I imagine he's going to be the guy that's going to be lined up on Zachary Franklin for the most part. So definitely one to look out for there. And they have a safety, TJ Harris, that they use on blitzes a lot. He's actually got quite a few sacks to his name this year as well. So they're going to get creative with their pressures. We've seen a lot of teams get burned on that by trying to blitz at Frank Harris too much. And, he's so quick to find the check down or take off and run, call the audible, give it a Kavorian, whatever it might be. But if they do choose to blitz Frank Harris and try to look at it, they do have a better defense than most of the defenses that Frank has seen. Keep an eye out for that safety blitz from TJ Harris.
Well, here's the crazy thing is that running quarterbacks have had some success against Troy's defense. However, it's negated on the stat sheet because they get so many sacks that their rush yards are all taken away.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But you've got so Coastal Carolina's Grayson McCall ran for 38 yards and a touchdown, got sacked for 20 yards. Louisiana Lafayette, Ben Woodridge rushed for 49 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a long run of 16 yards, but he was sacked for 10. Western Kentucky's Austin Reed runs for 38 yards, had a 12-yard pickup. So you're talking about Austin Reed picking up a first down with his feet.
Yeah.
But he was sacked for 28 yards. So when you look at it, if you're looking at just the net numbers, it wouldn't really appear that way. But the gross yardage tells the whole story. Running quarterbacks do have a lot of success against this Troy defense. And that is point UTSA big time.
Yeah. Yeah,
big
absolutely.
Time. Frank can let loose out there, man, and really get funky. And so we talk about them being number 5 in the nation in total sacks with 39. Well, guess what, Jared? They've allowed 40. 119th in sacks allowed. And this polarity between the offense and the defense is just the most phenomenal thing that I've ever seen when I was looking at the stats here. Troy's defense has forced 21 turnovers. They've lost 19. Troy's defense, number 5 in total sacks, offense, number 119 in sacks allowed. The Troy offense is converting 1/3 of their third downs, 34%. Troy defense allows a conversion of 40%. So the offense, I mean, really not that potent, Jared. I mean, I understand their defense has really stopped some guys, and hell, they've come out here and they've won 11 games on the year, but they only average 26 points per game.
Yeah, and if you look at their top scoring games, I mean, just in these past 3 games, they've probably had their best offensive showings, right? Coastal Carolina, they knew their coach was gone. Grayson McCall had been injured, right? So the game was completely out of whack.
Sure.
Arkansas State, awful, absolutely awful. One of the worst defenses in the country. And then ULM, they had 34 points, right? Then they put up some points against Western Kentucky as well, right? But I mean, if you look through it, I mean, they're not putting up really high point totals week in and week out. I mean, some of that's probably by design, help the defense out or whatever. But yeah, they're not putting points up on the board quite like UTSA can.
No,
I think the main thing that ties into those 2 issues that you listed with giving up sacks and having a lot of turnovers is they run a 2 quarterback system. Both of their quarterbacks are good. They're both good. Gunnar Watson, very solid. And then they got Jared Dagey, who lost the starting job at Western Kentucky after transferring from West Virginia. Is that right?
Yeah, Jared Dagey is from Lubbock, Texas. Yeah, he went to West Virginia, transferred over to after the 2021 season.
Yeah, so they rotate those guys a lot. Like it's got to be one of the most successful 2 quarterback systems I've seen in a long time because they've won as many games as they have. And, while their offense isn't super explosive, they are a successful offense overall. So it's just very interesting because I feel like not having the same guy under center for the majority of snaps leads to those communication breakdowns with the protection from the offensive line.
Okay.
Less of a unspoken chemistry of how long the quarterback's going to hold on to the ball.
Right.
And I think then both guys, when they come in, they want to make that big play to be like, okay, you can't take me out because I'm out here throwing bombs. And then they might throw a pick, right? Because they're maybe getting a little bit too greedy, or they just, because they split the reps, like they just don't have as much, I guess, knowledge of their limitations or the system or whatever it might be. So
right.
I don't know. It's crazy to see a team rotate quarterbacks and be as successful as Troy's been.
You know what they say, Jared, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Both these guys are good, though. They're both,
just saying.
They're both good.
I'm just saying.
Both of these guys would start at most programs in the G5.
I think it's true. I think that much is true. Yeah, Gunnar Watson completes 62% of his passes. Jared Doege completes 69% of his passes, but it's just that TD to interception ratio is just the craziest to me. I think you have a lot. I think you have a major point when you talk about team chemistry, team rhythm. You can't really get into it when you have a different guy back there every other snap, every 10 snaps or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, and UTSA is on like what, a 6-game interception streak.
That's right. And Jared, to the polar of those numbers between Frank Harris, you know what I'm saying? Gunnar Watson, 13 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Frank Harris, 31 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And I talk about, forced turnovers and losing turnovers. Troy's forced 21, but they've lost 19. UTSA's forced 20, but we've only lost 14.
Yeah.
It seems like UTSA is a hell of a lot more of a well-rounded, a lot more of a balanced team between offense and defense than Troy is. Troy seems to be very one-sided in their dominance.
I think UTSA has more experience on their offense too. Troy has some young guys that are really good for them. They have some transfers that are in there. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And then, of course, new coach, new coordinator and all that. They're still learning their own system.
I think that's fair. And UTSA has been playing together for 6 years.
Right. Like if Troy keeps this group together, like they're probably going to look as great as UTSA does on offense in a couple of years.
Sure.
And a big part of that are their 2 running backs. They've got 2 absolute studs in the backfield, Kamani Vidal and BK Billingsley. These guys are dynamic. Vidal is incredibly impressive. Every single game highlight I watched, I was like, which running back was that? That run was crazy. Yeah. He's very fast. He's very Kaborian Barnes type speed, game changer in that sense. If he gets a crease and there's a hole, he's gone. Just incredible. One of the better backs UTSA will see this year. And then BK Billingsley, his partner in crime, is more of the power run type. He's a little bit bigger. So they're like neck and neck in touchdowns, but Vidal has a lot more yards. I think just because they're going to put Billingsley in on those short down situations and stuff like that. Both those guys are really, really great backs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a true 1-2 punch back there with him. No doubt about that. Yeah. That might pose a little bit of an issue there between Troy's running game. And I guess that's how they've really been able to keep the scores low and keep the defense getting a lot of rest with that 1-2 punch between Billingsley and Vidal. Those guys are on the field. They're wearing the clock down. Defense is rested up on the sideline. They come out, boom, get a stop like automatic.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about UTSA later, but I think that's something that UTSA might still be missing in the bowl game is like, who's the second running back? Like, I still don't think we have the answer to that.
No, we don't have the answer to that. We don't have the answer to that. We didn't really quite learn the answer to that. Watching the conference championship game, Kavorian Barnes was just the workhorse and carry the ball 28 times or 32, whatever the hell it was. And
so that's three key position groups that you got to have the nod in the Troy direction: defensive line, running back, and linebackers.
Wow. Those are some crucial position groups, brother. Especially that front set. Or do they run a 3-4? Almost that front set.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Schematically, they're almost exactly like UTSA on both offense and defense. They run all the same stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot of familiarity in both directions on what they do.
It goes back to the watchability of this game being so high. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
to talk a little bit about their passing game there, like we mentioned that they rotate Gunnar Watson and Jared Dagey, quarterback, but they have a lot of good receivers. Tez Johnson and Rajay Johnson are the two biggest standouts there. Rajay Johnson was a name that I recognized because he, at the time, was the top-rated recruit in UAB history before he transferred to Troy. And he actually came to UAB as a tight end. So we know who recruited him. If you were listening earlier in the podcast, that was Coach Craddock, who went on to become the offensive coordinator at Troy. But it's interesting because when he got to Troy, he told Rajay to slim down and play receiver instead of keeping him a tight end.
Wow.
So I don't know. Was that just UAB's offensive system under Bill Clark or what, that they wanted that tight end? Or, maybe Coach Craddock was like, hey, I found this guy. I want him in my position unit.
You think Craddock would have wanted to do that same thing with Oscar?
Oh yeah, dude, definitely.
With the hand talent and and the ball carrying ability that he has. Yeah, I bet so. I bet so. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's really great. Tez Johnson, big play receiver as well. Got good link to him. I can't remember if he was the transfer or not.
Deshaun Stoudemire, I think, deserves a shout out here too, man. I mean, he's a big threat at wide receiver. He catches a hell of a lot of balls for them as well. 38 receptions from Deshaun Stoudemire, 52 receptions from Tez Johnson, 34 receptions from Rajay Johnson. All the guys averaging well over 10 yards per catch, multiple touchdowns from each. Yeah, it's a pretty deep group in that room.
Yeah, and all these guys have like really long completions as well. I'm looking at it 74, 67, 65, 60. So they're definitely not afraid to hit you with play action and air it out there.
So who's the guy that's throwing those big, deep shots like that? Is it Gunnar Watson or is it Jared Doge?
I imagine both.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's Watson.
Oh, it is Watson.
Yeah, Deji's longest pass of the year is only 39 yards.
Oh.
So all those big plays in the air have all been Gunnar Watson. Interesting. The guy that also throws 10 interceptions.
Hey, man. Yeah, you got to take shots to make shots, I suppose. Some of them you'll get, some of them you won't. Yeah, Gunnar Watson, man. Gunnar is a very appropriate first name for that boy. I tell you what.
Scared money don't make no money.
Gunnar Watson. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, there's a bit there that UTSA has to scheme for defensively. I think more so that's there that they need to scheme for offensively. Frank Harris will be able to get himself out of trouble only so many times. And earlier in the year, we did see Frank get a little flustered and collapsing pockets. I think he did better as the season went on in his decision-making with throwing the ball away or taking off on a scramble, not waiting or keep trying to decide what he's going to do for another split second. Can't really afford that against a Troy defense, Troy pass rush. So that's going to be something that's very, very tricky for UTSA to solve. I think you're going to have a whole lot of blocking work back there from Kavorian Barnes and from Oscar Cardenas, your tight ends, your wide receivers. That's going to be crucial.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's only so much that we're going to be able to get away with on sheer talent or sheer, dynamic playmaking ability, right? I don't think it's going to work quite as well against this team, just relying on your talent. And to that regard, Jared, I mean, where would you say Troy ranks as far as UTSA's opponents this season? Are they better than Houston?
Right now, yeah. In week 1, no.
Okay.
Because, I mean, Houston had a ton of injuries. They kind of got screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, UTSA had a pretty tough schedule. I would say they're in the top quarter.
Well, we did have 2 overlaps here. So Troy also played Army. They only beat them by 1 point, 10-9.
Yeah. And we went to overtime with Army.
And they put like 34 points up against us or whatever it was, somewhere in the 30s. And then
Army's air raid offense that game.
And then they also played Western Kentucky, WKU, who they beat by a touchdown, 34-27.
Yeah,
UTSA
pretty similar results, right?
Yeah, UTSA won both their games against Army and Western Kentucky by just a field goal differential. Yeah. So both 1 possession wins in both of those games for both of these programs. Kind of hard to dissect anything from those games, but that's the overlap on the schedule between these teams.
Yeah.
You can make it that as what you want.
Yeah, neck and neck. Cool. So we're going to jump into a little bit of a UTSA, I want to say preview, because you guys obviously know the Roadrunners, but we're going to talk a little bit about the game from the UTSA perspective. But before we do, I want to say thank you to 2 new subscribers on Patreon this week. Shout out to Sarah Fernandez and Danielle Carolla, both of the insider tier, for joining us on Patreon. There was a lot of interest in the Frank Harris Has Returned podcast. We did an early release on Patreon. We do a lot more of those in the off season, like where the Patreon gets early access before everyone else on the public feed. It's hard to do that during football season because everything moves so fast, but we definitely do it a lot in the off season. So if you want exclusive access, bonus content, all that good stuff, be sure to check that out, alamodaaudible.com. As always, I want to say thank you to our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron, and the Fikes family. And again, thank you to our Board of Trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdies Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meet Me Apparel, Brandon Grill and the Grill Realty Group, and Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefit Solutions. So thank you guys all for your continued support. And also thank you to a lot of people that re-upped their subscription this past week. I noticed a lot of you guys had let your subscription lapse and signed back up recently at the end of the season, much less. So thank you guys for that. We don't shout you guys all out individually if you just reactivated your account, but we still see you. We love you. We appreciate you. Oh, and something I want to mention at the beginning of the pod that I didn't. Congratulations to all of the new UTSA Roadrunner alumni, including our dear intern CJ, who walked the stage this morning.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah. Shout out to all the listeners that graduated this year. I feel like we have more like current student listeners with this group of alumni than we have ever had. So thank you guys all so much. The athletes that are graduating in Orlando as well. That is so awesome. Mm-hmm. Cherish that, man. How many people in the world can say that they graduated at Disney World or whatever? So that's pretty sweet. Yeah,
man. Big shout out to Clayton. Big shout out to CJ Benavides, the Alamo Dome Audible intern, for walking the stage. Very, very cool, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Hashtag hire CJ.
Yeah.
Well, we want to do a quick cumbia break before we get into the UTSA side of things.
Dude, let's play some commencement cumbia, baby.
Oh, yeah. All right, folks, let's wrap this thing up. Let's talk about the Cure Bowl from the UTSA perspective. We've been talking a lot about Troy. What's up?
Wait, time out. I almost forgot one very, very important graduation shout out, and that is to your fiance, the future Mrs. Kalmus, Sophia. I don't know Sophia's actual last name right now. So the future Mrs. Sophia Kalmus. Yes, from the UHD Go Gators in Minute Maid, which I heard they had a fantastic mariachi ceremony after that commencement.
Well, I'm not going to lie. We bailed on the graduation. Like, as soon as Sophia had an exit, she was out of that thing. Because, dude, it was crazy long. We couldn't, the speakers weren't set up right. We couldn't hear anything that was going on.
Oh, come on. Well, Minute Maid, I mean, it's not like the most conducive venue, I suppose, either.
No, it was a terrible venue. It sounded so cool on paper that you get to graduate where the Astros just won the World Series at. But like, they didn't have it hooked up to the PA system. They had like these little crappy like PA speakers.
Oh, it wasn't on the stadium PA?
No. And like all the video boards were taken down for maintenance. Yeah, it kind of blew. But we still got to celebrate with friends and family. We had some delicious barbecue afterwards. And hey, at the end of the day, it's the paper that matters. So, Sophia, we are all very proud of you.
I would even argue,
I
would even argue that it's true Kalmus fashion to get that thing, get out the back door, bail. Let's go to
go eat some brisket.
Let's go hang out. Let's get some brisket. Let's dive bar it up. Yeah, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, big shout out to your fiance, sir.
All right, cool. So interesting, different dynamic for this bowl game compared to last for the Roadrunners. Are you feeling that vibe as well?
Yeah, I feel like this is the most, I want to say locked in, but like the most ready, the most prepared. I don't know. This is the most confident I've felt going into a bowl game, which is crazy to say because Troy is an extremely good team, but not confident in regards to the matchup, but confidence in the team. I feel like mentally this team is in a very, very good place. Last year,
that's how I feel as well.
When we won that conference championship, it really did feel like the end of the season. Mm-hmm. You know, the pageantry, the confetti, everyone screaming, yes, we did it. We did it. It felt like there was nothing left to do, nothing left to prove. You had half the team walkouts go to the NFL after the fact. But even before that occurring, I mean, it really felt like when we won the conference championship, the season was over. And the bowl game was just sort of like this consolation sort of prize. It was more like an exhibition game for UTSA to play after the season was over than anything else. So yeah, now it feels like the team is ready to get that first bowl win. They're like in this they're in this mode where it seems like they're demanding respect. They want to demand respect from the rest of the country, because I think they've earned it on the CUSA level. They probably earned it on a bit of the G5 level, maybe even not even all of it. They've certainly earned it amongst UTSA fans, but I think that there's this calling in this team to go and get that first bowl win, but also to do it against a good team and to show the rest of the USA, hey, UTSA means serious business when it comes to this football stuff.
I have seen so many players go out of their way to mention the fact that UTSA still has never beat a ranked opponent and they have still never won a bowl game. And that was also true last year. I did not hear guys talk about it in interviews as much as they have this go around.
Jeff Traylor's really been pounding the table.
They're hammering it.
With that narrative.
Right?
Yeah.
Because winning the conference championship obviously was great, but it's not something they haven't done before. And having that carrot to chase after of we're going to do something for the first time in program history again, it's pretty enticing. I'll also say, you know, even if we go back the year previous to, what was that, the First Responder Bowl with ULL?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how the Troy people listening will respond to me calling the Raging Cajuns ULL. I don't know how they feel about that. I'm sure they'll let me know. And they'll send it to ULL people, and ULL people let me know. Well, anyways, I didn't think UTSA was anywhere near as talented as that Raging Cajuns team. And then Coach Traylor had COVID. He couldn't coach, right? So you couldn't feel great about that matchup. I think UTSA was a decent sized underdog on that one. And then for the San Diego State Bowl, the Frisco Bowl, UTSA was playing with like a skeleton crew because so many guys either opted out, they failed the classes, or they had COVID, or they were injured, right? And UTSA is pretty much going to be at full, I shouldn't say full health because so many guys had season-ending injuries, but they're going to have all the guys that they expect to have for the most part. There could still be some grade casualties, you know, injuries pop up during bowl prep or whatever, but the two deep is going to be in place for this game, which wasn't the case last year.
Yes. UTSA is healthy, as healthy as they were in the conference championship game, right?
Sure.
And for a majority of November, this team is going into this game playing their best football of the year so far, in great health. Everyone's really locked in. You just had Frank Harris announce his return. And honestly, also, Jared, I think that having the river parade in commemoration of the championship or whatever, I think that did a good job of finalizing that accomplishment. Like
flushing it.
Yes. Like here, celebration. Okay. Now it's over. We're done celebrating the championship now. You got your little boat with the trophy.
Yeah.
We had the river rally. It was a lot of fun. Peggy Amy spoke. Jeff wasn't there. Jeff was on the recruiting trail. A couple guys spoke, but I think you wake up that next day and it's like, okay, that's in the past. That's over. Now it's on the bowl game, which I'm sure they had already switched into that mode. At least a couple guys in the locker room did. But yeah, there's something finalizing that felt about having that rally. And now it's like, okay, back to business. Party's over, right? I think
also traveling to a destination out of state is also just a different mindset than going up to Frisco.
Going up to a Frisco, place that we haven't won in the Dallas-Fort Worth area since 2013. It's not a geographical landscape that has been very kind to us in our competitions over there, our contests over there. And so, yeah, man. Yeah, I would agree with you there, because there's only so much to look forward to getting the bus for 6 hours to Frisco or to hop on a 45-minute flight to Frisco. The pageantry is lost a little bit, but there's like a genuine excitement. They're going to Florida to play in a bigger bowl, to go to Orlando, you get to go to theme parks, but there's a lot more pageantry surrounding it. And I think that helps the players' excitement level, mental.
Greg Luca had a tweet that he overheard some players when they were walking off the bus say, "This is a hell of a lot nicer than Frisco."
I saw that.
That cracked me up, man. That was funny. But yeah, I mean, I really like the focus that I'm seeing from this team. I think that Coach Traylor's going to get the guys really fired up for this one. I think he's going to have some gut-wrenching story about his dad that he's going to share in the locker room per game.
Oh, man.
Get the guys ready to play.
Unbelievable.
So I don't know. I'm like, it feels so weird that we're both so confident, because we both have tremendous respect for Troy. They're an amazing program, amazing team, right? I don't think Troy gets enough credit for what they did for the Sun Belt. Everyone points to Coastal. Everyone points to App State. But don't forget, Troy was the first one to get ranked in the top 25 for the Sun Belt, right? Then beating Nebraska and LSU put the Sun Belt on the map in a way that, Coastal certainly didn't at that point in time, right? That was before Grayson McCall even showed up. Is it Myrtle Beach or Conway? I forget where exactly Coastal was at. But yeah, I don't think Troy gets the respect that they deserve for what they bring to the Sun Belt, and just for their history as a program in general, going back for as far as it has. DeMarcus Ware, obviously alumni of the Trojans, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm taking the Roadrunners 31-28. First bowl win, first top 25 win program history.
Woo!
Coming into the AAC ranked in the top 25 next season.
Dude, all the respect in the world for Troy. I think UTSA wins this thing handily. Not in blowout fashion. Yeah. But we win this game by 2 possessions. It's 36-24 Roadrunners at the end of the day. And we show them what real offenses can do behind the magic of Frank Harris. Which, speaking of, Jared, how does Will Stein's absence impact this offense?
I don't think it'll impact too much. I mean, it's going to be the same system. Coach Burke has been here for so long. He helped design the offense, evidently. So yeah. I don't think it's going to, I mean, hell, Frank Harris can call the offense himself, right? I don't think the play calling is going to matter all that much. These guys know the playbook back and forth several times over. There's so much better experience on this offense. I would be shocked if the play calling is so bad that it causes UTSA to lose the game. It's going to be, if they lose, it's going to be something else.
And I think if Troy fan or the Troy locker room, even in that regard, is optimistic about what Will Stein's absence is going to have on the UTSA team, if it's going to negatively affect it, I think they need to just go ahead and write that off. I don't think it's going to have very much of an effect on this offense whatsoever. Yeah, I agree with you big time. So we got Birds winning their very first bowl game, beating their very first ranked opponent. And
wait, what was your score prediction though? You just said handily.
No, I said 30. No, I said 36.
What was it?
36-24 Roadrunners.
36-24. Okay,
36-24.
Pretty high scoring game. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
By
sure.
Standards.
Yeah, for sure. I think UTSA gets out there and puts some points up on the board, and I think Troy does a good job of getting their own points on the board. But look, man, we're going to get some interceptions in this game. We're going to cause some turnovers in this game. Frank Harris is going to absolutely ball out. It's big. It's big for this team not to only get their first ranked win and first bowl game win. Like, that's all really fun, exciting. But this win makes UTSA the undisputed, well, maybe not undisputed, but damn near the undisputed king of the group of five, besides Tulane, right? And so, you talk about two teams that are on 10 win streaks. UTSA wins this game. I think it's by far the most impressive win of the season. And one of the more impressive ones, I think, in program history, just besides the bowl game accolades and the beating the ranked team. This Troy team is really, really good, but I think UTSA is not a whole lot better, but they are certainly better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. Well, we'll see. Sorry to the Troy boys if they're listening that we didn't return the favor and pick Troy on one of our behalves. which
Vegas has Troy favored by, and the lines creeped back up. It was coming down for UTSA, and I was starting to go back up. I think it's at 2 points now. Was it 1? So, dude, the odds makers have this thing really, really even. But I think for those of us that keep our eyes on UTSA know the real story.
Lock of the century is what I'm hearing. So two quick shout outs before we sign off. We are, or I guess CJ is hosting a bowl pick'em for us. So if you've never done a bowl pick'em before, you just go and you pick the winner of each bowl. You assign confidence points to how strongly you feel for each pick. The winner of that will receive an Aluminum Audible gift package. So be sure to sign up for that. The link's on our social media. I think you can just search for ESPN Bowl Pick'em and search for the Aluminum Audible group. I think it's open enrollment. But we'll be sure to tweet that out throughout the rest of the week as well. We are also going to have a bonus episode on Patreon, and we're going to do, people have been loving these episodes, so we're going to do a little deep dive into UTSA's recent history in their bowl games, going back and starting with the 2016 New Mexico Bowl, which Adrian and I both have some great personal stories of our time out there in Albuquerque. So be on the lookout for that later this week.
Love it. Big shout out to the 505. And I know we started on a somber note. I hate to end it on one, but I think it's necessary. The Cure Bowl, all about cancer awareness. A big shout out to Bryce Wisdom, UTSA safety, Rashad Wisdom's little brother, who was also a UTSA commit. And he was lost to cancer before he actually made it onto campus. Jeff Traylor's very first game coaching UTSA was against Texas State that COVID season. Rashad Wisdom, in a moment of divine intervention, gets the game sealing interception. Was it a pick six? I want to say it was a pick six. It was pick six. Yeah. Game sealing pick six. Really, really special moment for UTSA. Bryce Wisdom and the Wisdom family, very, very close to UTSA. And so just big shout out to the Wisdoms, man. And big shout out to the Cure Bowl and F Cancer.
Yeah, I think they have like a cancer survival walk leading into the game. So that should be pretty cool to see. Hopefully they'll have some footage of that they'll show in the broadcast. Yeah. Great call out, man. Yeah, it's important to remember why these bowls exist. They some more than others, but they're supposed to be, charitable occurrences. So that's right. Obviously the UTSA community has been touched very heavily by cancer. So great to have an opportunity to raise that awareness and support those survivors and those that were not as fortunate. So Great point. All right, guys. Well, thanks as always for listening. Thought this was a great episode this week. So please share with your friends, get that bowl game enthusiasm going to the group chat by sending the podcast link to them. Tell them to leave us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and follow us on social media, all that good stuff. And like I said, we'll be back with a bonus episode this week. And we'll be back sometime next week before the Christmas holiday to break down the Cure Bowl and look towards the offseason and early signing day and all the recruiting stuff going on. Coaching
It don't stop. It doesn't stop.
It don't stop.
And neither does Alamo Dome Audible.
Damn, let's go. Let's get out of here.